Every ancient path warned us of the ego, the serpent within, the false self, the mask. They said kill it, transcend it, dissolve it into nothingness. But what if they were only half right? What if the thing we have been trying to kill was never the enemy? What if the ego is not the cage but the crucible, the chamber where chaos becomes selfhood, where pure awareness learns to choose, to create, to burn? We have been told to silence it, to humiliate it, to see it as a source of sin. Yet without the ego, there is no voice to speak, no will to act, no dream to build. Without the ego, you vanish into potential, unformed, unseen, and undone. So the question is not whether we must destroy the ego, but whether we must reforge it. This is the story of that fire, the atomic awakening of the self, a journey through the myths of the soul, the equations of the universe, and the psychology of power. A return to the forgotten truth that evolution is not the death of the ego, but its transformation into something divine. In the beginning, there was no form, no direction, no name, only potential, infinite, undivided, unobserved, and yet from the silence, something stirred, the will to see. When consciousness looked upon itself, the universe collapsed into existence, and in that act, the first observation, infinity became finite, possibility became form. Physicists call it the collapse of the wave function. Mystics called it the birth of I Am. The ancients spoke of logos, of the word that spoke itself into being, and that was the birth of the ego, the point at which awareness became aware of its own reflection. Not the fall of man, but the rise of differentiation, the moment the one dared to divide itself so it could witness its own light. They told us that was our original sin, that individuality was arrogance, that selfhood was separation. But the truth, whispered through every age by those who remembered, is that the ego was never the enemy. It was the interface, the mechanism by which consciousness touches matter, the reactor core through which the divine experiences itself in the density of flesh. Without it, infinity remains unformed. Without it, there is no voice to sing, no eyes to love, no mind to wonder. Even in quantum physics, nothing becomes real until observed, until awareness claims it from the sea of probability. And that awareness, that point of focus, that is the ego. It is the atomic engine of perception, the divine aperture of the infinite. Carl Jung understood this. He warned that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And the ego is that process, the crucible where light and shadow meet, where the human learns to endure the fire of its own awakening. To destroy the ego is to destroy the witness. To annihilate it is to unplug the coordinates of the soul from the map of reality. Friedrich Nietzsche called it the will to power, not domination but self-overcoming, the eternal engine of transformation. He saw that the ego is not a cage but a volcano, and that suppression only leads to eruption. Your fire is not your curse. It is your creation tool. Fire burns, yes, but fire also forges. Without it, there is no steel, no civilization, no art, no will. The task is not to extinguish the flame, but to temper it, to transmute its chaos into clarity. Just as the atom's energy can destroy or illuminate, the ego's energy can enslave or liberate. The difference is awareness. The hand that wields the power determines whether it becomes apocalypse or genesis. Science, too, bows to this truth. Neuroscience tells us that the default mode network, the circuitry of identity, memory, and imagination, is not a flaw in evolution but the foundation of self-reflection itself. It is the canvas upon which consciousness paints continuity. When mystics call for the death of the ego, they often mistake silence for enlightenment, but silence is not wisdom if it kills the song. True transcendence does not mean erasing the self. It means refining it until the personal becomes transparent enough for the infinite to shine through. The philosopher Heraclitus once said, "Character is destiny." He meant that the fire of identity, when mastered, becomes the architect of fate, and the ego, properly understood, is precisely that, the architect through which the divine blueprint becomes tangible. Humility, then, is not self-erasure. It is the control of power. Light without focus is just a flash, but through a lens it becomes a laser, a weapon of creation. The saints were not empty, they were focused. The enlightened were not void, they were concentrated. They held the full fire of selfhood within stillness, not extinguished but mastered. To be humble is not to be nothing. It is to be everything but quiet about it. Even David Bohm, the quantum physicist who saw the universe as an undivided whole, believed the ego was a necessary interface, a limited structure that allows the infinite implicate order to unfold into the explicate, to manifest experience in sequence and story. You are not the cage. You are the translation. You are how the eternal enters time. Your shadow, too, is sacred. The ego's darkness, jealousy, rage, and pride are not flaws in the code, but unrefined elements of divine power. Handle them without understanding and they consume you, but contain them with wisdom and they become fuel for ascension. In the heart of every star, gravity crushes chaos into light. The same law governs your soul. Pressure refines you. The shadow is the nuclear chamber where your potential combusts into luminosity. Jung again reminds us, one does not become whole by remaining in the light. To deny the shadow is to deny your totality. Integration is not purity. It is controlled under pressure. Every thought you think is a brushstroke on the quantum field. Every intention rearranges the very geometry of possibility. Schrödinger once wrote that consciousness is a singularity. There is no multiplicity of minds. There's only one awareness observing itself through many windows, and your ego, your individual flame, is one of those sacred windows through which infinity explores itself. You are the artist and the artwork, the brush and the color, the observer and the observed. To reject the ego is to throw away the brush, to silence the creator in fear of imperfection. But to refine it, to let it move through you like disciplined fire, is to become the very expression of the universe's dream of itself. Ego death is not enlightenment. It is amnesia, the forgetting of why creation began at all. The universe did not expand for billions of years, forge stars, craft DNA, and awaken neurons just for you to dissolve into silence. True awakening is integration, the marriage of wave and particle, light and matter, spirit and self. The return of the integrated being is not escaping the human, but embodying the divine through it. When the observer and the observed recognize they are the same, reality itself ignites. That is the fusion point of enlightenment, not the fading of the self, but the ignition of the whole. You are not here to disappear. You are here to burn brighter. The ego is not your enemy. It is the divine reactor of awareness, the atomic engine of becoming. Through it, consciousness discovers form. Through you, the universe rediscovers itself. You are not the flaw in creation. You are the proof that creation works. You are not here to escape the fire. You are here to remember you are the fire. Are we simply feeding the monster we are meant to starve? The answer, as it turns out, is not found in surrender nor in conquest. It is found in integration. The ego, in its raw form, is dangerous, yes. Unchecked, it devours. But annihilated, it leaves nothing to carry the light forward. Jung understood this. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Nietzsche saw it too, that the self must be forged through struggle, not erased through denial. Even physics whispers the same secret. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The observer collapses the wave, not as a tyrant, but as a co-creator of form. So no, we are not glorifying the ego. We are redeeming it. We are taking the raw, unstable isotope of the self and refining it until it shines like a controlled fusion reactor, generating power instead of chaos. This is what the mystics meant but never said plainly, that to overcome the ego, you must first understand it, respect it, and wield it. For the divine cannot move through you if there is no you left to move. And so the journey ends where it began, in fire, not the fire that destroys, but the fire that creates. The ego was never your prison. It was your forge, and through that forge, consciousness learns to build worlds. So next time someone tells you to dissolve your ego, smile, because you will know the truth. You are not here to disappear. You are here to ignite. To take that molten core of self and shape it into something that can move mountains, write symphonies, and bend reality toward meaning. The ego is not your enemy. It is your engine. Learn to drive it, and it will take you across galaxies of potential. Thank you for watching, and remember, the fire inside you is not here to burn you. It is here to forge you.